Hello, I'm Brian Froud, and I designed Dark Crystal and, more importantly, Labyrinth. It was a great film to work on. It was pioneering in its day. The first thing you're going to see is an owl, which was the first fully realised digital character in movie history. But the rest of the film is all magical puppets, full of symbolism, full of little things that are hidden away, so it's essential that you see this on the big screen, where you'll see all the fun. And just a little tip, watch out for the milk bottle.
Hello, Nancy Glow and Brynmawr. I'm Carol, and I worked on the film Labyrinth with Todd, and I also took some behind-the-scenes photographs, which you'll see tonight. Hope you really enjoy seeing Labyrinth on the big screen. Yay!
Hi, I'm Wendy Froud, and I worked on Labyrinth with my husband Brian and Todd and Carol, and most of all, with our son Toby, who is, of course, the Toby in the movie. We had a lot of fun. I was a sculptor and puppet builder on it, as well as the mother of Toby, and Todd and Carol did so many things, as well as wrangling Toby. So we were all there. If you think of it, when you see him behind the scenes, when you see us, think of us standing there, making him do all the things that he needed to do in the film. I hope you enjoy it. It's going to be fun to see it on the big screen.
Hello, Brynmawr Market Hall Cinema. This is Todd from Nancy Glow. I used to sit up in the seats there years and years ago, and then I went to America, and I had a phone call from a guy called Jim Henson, and went to work with Brian Froud and Wendy Froud on the film Labyrinth, which you're going to get to see on the big screen exactly as it should have been, or should be. Hope you enjoy. Lots of love. Bye.
Come from the valleys of Wales. And my future was supposed to be down a pit or in a steelworks, but it was the late 70s and all that was collapsing. I went off to drama school, studied ballet, ran away to America, lived in a shed building puppets with Mike McCormick. He was very instrumental in much of the armor and the design, and helped Brian bring the Goblin army into reality. But I'm in a shed in New Mexico, and I'm experiencing for the first time puppetry. Mike had a phone call. He was going to go and work on this thing in London. He'd done Dark Crystal, and it was a thing in London, and so I came back to the UK, got me a job in this workshop in Downshire Hill in Hampstead. Initially, just building tables. I built Brian's table, I built everybody's table there probably. But what then happened is Jim met me. I happened to be the right size for a prototype riding goblin and a March hare in Dreamchild and various other things, and he gave me permission. So from the most astonishing path, really, unexpected, here I am. And on a Tuesday evening in Wales, in the valleys, I used to watch the Muppets. And then I got to work with them.
So when I first got to the Muppets, the first day I arrived, I saw the people in the workshop, and I thought, wow, these are intense characters, and they would not be employable where I came from in Silicon Valley. They just had too much individuality, too much character. Silicon Valley depended on a more homogenized group. But I got to the Muppets, and first I was shocked, and then then I began to realize that each of them could do something that no one else could do. And that was just a revelation for me. And all of a sudden I realized I was in this beautiful salad where everything contributed. You know? I've loved it ever since, and it's been true of everything we've done. Yeah, so that's one of the great honors of this.
This gives me an opportunity to say how Labyrinth began. It's quite important, I think, because of how these things do begin. So we had been to a showing of Dark Crystal in San Francisco. And when the show had finished, the screen went up, and behind it was a whole banquet going on, and we all sat down with Jim and Wendy and a huge number of people, and they served this fabulous meal, and everybody was dressed up. It was quite extraordinary. And I don't know, Jim and I and everybody, we were exhausted by Dark Crystal. It was 5 years of our lives that we were never going to do another movie ever again. So, but being in San Francisco and watching this film, there seemed to be a bit of a fug in the air. Something was going on with cigarettes or something was happening. So, and we'd had a few glasses of wine. And so when we were in Jim's limo, so we sat in the back of the limo, there was Jim Henson, Wendy, Froud, and myself. And we were feeling quite mellow. And Jim says, "Shall we make another one?" And we said, "Yes, why not?" So he asked the question. He said, "Well, what should it be about?" And we went, "I don't know." And he said, "Well, my daughter Lisa is sort of majoring in Indian mythology." He says, "It sounds pretty cool. There's all these gods and goddesses in chariots that go across the sky. That could be exciting." He said, "Do you know anything about that?" And I said, "No, I haven't the faintest idea." So it all fell a bit silent. And I said, and I just flashed in my mind, I thought, "I know about goblins." I said, he said, "Oh, great." I said, so I got his attention, and he said, "What I want to do is put human beings in it this time." That was his big change from Dark Crystal. And immediately I thought, if you have a human being and a puppet, what's the biggest possible emotional contrast? And I thought, a baby. And I said, Jim, that in folklore, goblins steal babies, and there's a story there. And he said, yes. He said, that's great. And he said, well, what else? And I don't know why I thought about that. I said, well, a labyrinth is a metaphor for many things. Maybe it could have all happened in a labyrinth. And he said, that's it. And I came back. So, it might be all my idea. But Jim Henson said yes, and the magic was, let's do it. Let's do it. So I came back to England and I painted a picture of the baby surrounded by goblins, and then other pictures. But in those pictures, I was always thinking about puppets, and physical effects. So that's what I'd learned on Dark Crystal. And so my designs always seem to incorporate something about how I thought it might be manipulated and turned into a creature. And I mean, the big difference in many ways is with Dark Crystal we created a whole mythological world, but when we were doing Labyrinth, it was a world that was in the girl's head. And so its references were completely different.
There were many people, in the shop, many of them had come from the Muppets in New York. Connie, Sherry, Rolly, Polly, and Jane Gutnick. One of the things that struck me when I look back at pictures of the workshop is just how much was built. Oh. There was a goblin army.
Right.
It wasn't a clone of multiples.
Right.
Everyone was different, and the detail, any one of those characters should be in a museum.
Thank you very much, all three of you. A massive round of applause for Brian Froud, Todd-Jones, and Dave Goelz.